Good morning, friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. I hope you are doing well. We're going to be doing some seed starting today, as well as some direct sowing in the garden. So stay tuned. We're back in the greenhouse this morning, but not for long. We just have some seeds to start, and then we have a lot of direct sowing to do out front. So normally the seeds that I'm going to be starting today, other than the sunflowers, those I am going to start in seed trays because they're going to go out to the farm, but it's kind of the same for the same reason. So the seeds that I'm starting in here today are normally things that you can just direct sow. They're big seeds, they're easy to direct sow, but the reason I'm starting these in 6-packs is rodents. So most of these, especially the corn, I find if I direct sow it, the seeds get dug up and eaten before they even germinate. So I'm going to start all of my corn in 6-packs this time. I know this can be done. They don't really like to be transplanted. That's the same for a lot of these, but they can tolerate it. And if it means that I actually will have seedlings in the ground instead of eaten, then I'm going to do it. Last year I sowed a bunch of corn and I covered it with floating row cover, like stapled it down so that they could germinate under there. But the rodents actually ate through the floating row cover to get at the corn seeds. So I'm not doing that this year. I also have wonderful plastic cloches that completely close up, and you can just twist open the tops to let air in and out. And you can staple those down, but they just dig right under those as well. So now that I know their MO, I have to change mine. So we're going to start some corn today, and I'm growing 4 varieties of corn this year. 2 of them here at the house and another one at the farm. And the reason for that is it's time to maturity. So corn is wind pollinated. When the tassels come out, those are loaded with pollen, and then it relies on wind to carry that pollen to other plants so that they can get pollinated and produce ears. So if you want to grow corn, you either need to grow all the same variety, because otherwise they will cross-pollinate and you'll get some weird stuff, or you can plant either in successions, about 10 days apart, so that they mature at different times and they won't cross-pollinate. Or you can just get varieties that do mature at different times. You can plant them all at the same time and they won't cross-pollinate because they'll be in their pollination phase at separate times. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I usually do. And it works out just fine. So the first one we're starting today is Martian Jewels. This one's really yummy. It's a beautiful corn, and it's a little bit less sweet than your normal sweet corn, but it's still really fun to grow. So this one is 80 to 90 days to maturity. So I think this one is the longest one I have. Yes, this is the longest day to maturity one that I have. So I'm going to be starting, probably I'll start 12 of each variety, because the other thing you want to do when you're planting corn is you don't want to plant them in long straight rows because the pollination will be very uneven. So you want to plant them in blocks, so big clusters together. That ensures more even pollination. And if you know which direction your winds usually come from, you can make sure as you site them, that the wind will blow through the tassels and more effectively pollinate the other plants. Okay, so Martian Jewels. The next one, this one's new to me. I haven't grown this one before. This is Ashworth Sweet Corn. I got it from Hudson Valley Seeds. And this one is maturity in 75 days. So again, I'm going to start about 12 of these. And then this one from Johnny's, doesn't have a picture. This one's Solstice corn, and it is a super sweet corn. Its days to maturity are 68. So the spacing between them works out so that I can plant them all at the same time and I won't have to worry about cross-pollination. So these are the corns that we're going to be growing this year. Now there's another one that we're growing out at the farm that I don't have with me here. I'll start that separately and take that out at some point. I have to find a good location for it. Okay. Other things we are starting from seed today. I want to get a few more of these calendula, these Racina calendula. There's not really a picture on here, but it's a beautiful calendula and it's really great. I gave most of them away. And I have some of my customers have them in their flower garden box kits. But I want more for me because I want to just put these everywhere. Calendula is a really nice perennial. And for me, it goes, it really stays looking very nice for about 2 years before I really have to cut it back dramatically or replace it altogether, because they do get scraggly and you have to be really on deadheading them if you want them to continue to look nice. But I would like to start, probably I'll do 6 more plants, maybe 12. We'll see. I did get more soil yesterday. However, I was not able to find any more planting cups. And so I ordered more from Bootstrap Farmer. So yes, they're plastic, but they're these plastic ones, the super heavy duty ones. So the plastic that I'm investing in these days is not single use. It's probably, those will probably last me 10 or more years because they don't sit out in the exposure to the sun. They're really strong and sturdy. So yeah, it's still using petroleum products, but I don't want to be investing in these single use plastics like these. Which I got 5 years ago now, and I keep reusing them, but they're super thin and they will fall apart relatively soon if I don't take really good care of them. So I didn't want to go to Amazon and just get more of these, even if that meant they would arrive today. I want something, if I'm going to buy plastic, I want it to last for a very, very long time. That's another reason why most of the seeds I start are in soil blocks, because I don't have to use plastic for that. But sometimes I have to bump them up, and so I need containers that are going to last for a long time. I wish that I could afford to buy a whole bunch, like thousands of little 3-inch terracotta pots. That would be brilliant. I would love that so much. But the lowest prices I've seen for those are about $1.50 per pot, and I just don't have the budget for that. So maybe someday. All right, so more seeds that we're going to start today. Nasturtium. Now, I usually just direct sow nasturtiums, and in fact, I've already done that once this season. I put them around the edge of the round bed where the potatoes, the gold potatoes and onions are currently. But I noticed that when I direct sow nasturtiums, not all of them germinate. And it takes a really long time because, you know, especially in the early spring, it still gets cold and all that. So this year, I'm going to put a bunch of, I'll do almost a whole flat of nasturtiums. And I have to use 6-packs for this because they're a really big seed. They can't fit into the soil blocks, even the bigger ones. So here's all the varieties that we're going to be starting. And this is just because I love this plant so much. It's edible. It's a very peppery flavor. They're wonderful in salads. They're beautiful flowers. And they just add so much color and beauty to the vegetable garden, in addition to being a really great trap crop for aphids and things like that. So I like to plant them just like marigolds. I put nasturtiums and marigolds around all of my vegetables. And it really does, they do a great job of keeping my plants pretty pest-free. Okay, so the first one is butterscotch. I love this variety. Then we've got black velvet. Now this one I need to put in a space that is like the most sun, because otherwise they don't really show up. If it's a partially shaded area, they don't show up very well. Okay, then we've got the Jewel blend. And then this one is one of my favorites. And it's not so much for the flower colors, but it's for the foliage. This is Alaska variegated. I love that variegated foliage. I also put nasturtiums around a lot of my containers, all around the edges. I don't necessarily have to put them just around vegetables. They really look beautiful, especially the trailing varieties coming over the sides of decorative containers. And speaking of trailing varieties, this one, single blend, is such a variety. Okay, then we have Jewel blend. And I'm not going to label these because these are not going up for sale. I don't have to identify which variety is which. I'm literally going to dump just, you know, a bunch of seeds into my hand and start filling up 6-packs. I don't really care. I just want them out in my garden. And then we have a kaleidoscope mix here and peach melba. This one's really, really pretty. Then we have little firebirds. Now this is a very diminutive nasturtium, and it's great for hanging baskets. It's super cute. And that's it, because these last two are more single blend. I really like the trailing varieties. So those I actually will label and set aside because they need to go in slightly different places. I wouldn't put a trailing variety next to in-ground crops. I want to put them in like the birdie's beds so that they can hang over the side. Okay, then the final set of seeds we're starting today is another round of sunflowers. The ones that I started before, they're doing okay, but they don't look great. They really need to come out of this seed tray, and I think I'll go on and put them out at the farm, but I don't think they're going to make it. We'll see. So I have ProCut White Light. This one I always start early in the season because it's a white sunflower with a greenish yellow center. So it's a very bright kind of springy looking color. And then 2 packets of Marley Mix from Sunflower Steve. These are precious because there's not that many seeds available right now from Sunflower Steve. So these I'm going to start as well. So it's not a huge tray of sunflowers this week, but from here on out, and I should have been doing this for a while, but I haven't been, sunflowers every week. And then there's a few more things here. I have 2 mixes. These are supposed to be done in these are supposed to be direct sown. I haven't yet come up with the perfect place to put these. This is a Midnight Garden mix. There's 500 seeds in it. These are from Hudson Seeds. What is in it? So this packet covers a 3x10 area. Scatter and rake in, just like you do with any direct sowing. Keep the area moist but not wet. Or you can start indoors and transplant out after frost. This mix includes Candy Tuft, 4 o'clocks, Purity Cosmos, Sweet Mignonette, Bishop's Flower, Evening Scented Stock, and Sensation Mixed Nicotiana. So I think what I'm going to do, and I don't usually do this, I think I'm going to do this Monty Don way. I'm going to get a tray and put a layer of soil in it, and I'm going to direct sow these in the tray. Again, I noticed in the garden, a lot of the seeds get eaten by birds and mice and stuff, and they don't really do that great. I have a hard time with direct sowing in my garden. So I'm going to try it this way, and then I'll have a tray that I can prick out individual plants if I want to, or I can take little sections and just directly transplant those seedlings into the ground, because this is kind of wildflower-esque. You're not like individually placing plants. Okay, the next one is a shade garden mix, and this I have some sections on the property that are pretty deep shade, so I'm going to again do the same thing, start these in a tray. This also covers a 3x10 area. There's 500 seeds in each of these packets. Let's see, the mix includes Chinese forget-me-nots, Chinese houses, baby blue eyes, 5-spot, and larkspur. And baby blue eyes, 5-spot, and baby blue eyes and 5-spot are California natives, which is nice too, because this is a New York company. So those are the seeds that we're starting, and slightly different methods. And then next week, we are doing ProCut White Night. This is more sunflowers. This one, also a white sunflower, but with a darker center, kind of a brownish center. And then the ProCut Red Lemon Bicolor. So it's a sunflower that has, the petals are red and lemon bicolor, and I think it's red on the inside, yellow on the I think it's yellow on the inside, red on the outside. I can't remember. Anyway, one of those, but they grade into each other. Okay, so that's it for the direct sowing. So I'm going to get started on that. Then we'll go out to the front garden and we will do direct sowing of beans. day. Yesterday, when I was about to come out here, Mike asked if we could take a break and go for a family hike because we have family visiting. And so we did that and we got back. It was around, 4:30 or so. I came out here to try to do what we're going to do now. And there was a singular bee, again, who would not stop poking me in the head and like hitting my body way out here, way by the chicken coop. And so I gave up. I didn't want to get stung. My bee mentor recommends that I get a insect net. And he said, occasionally you get those bees that are just, it's a singular bee usually, and they're freaked out. And they won't leave you alone. He said, I find it better to catch them in the net and squash them, which seems harsh and horrible, but he's like, that way they won't keep trying to sting you. And the rest of the hive doesn't get all freaked out, start getting freaked out when they can smell that aggressive pheromone after the sting. So, makes sense. Anyway, it's morning. I went and harvested at the farm. There's a pretty significant irrigation issue out there, and I can't figure out what's going on. There's not enough pressure. That is the main issue. But I don't know why. And it's going to be hot today and tomorrow. So I did hand water some of the Lysianthus that looked like they were struggling. There is water coming out of the drip, but barely. And so Dylan's going to come out with me tomorrow. We're going to walk the whole line back and forth with our hands on the line the whole way to try to figure out where it's 1,200 feet that we've got to search. Figure out if there's a cut or something in there that's causing the loss of pressure. If there's not, then I'm really confused because nothing has changed since last year when the pressure was fine. If there's not a cut in the line, I'd prefer it if there was a hole somewhere in the line because that's easy to fix. If there's not, then my only recourse at this point is to buy another 1,200 feet of tubing, get a separate timer, and split that upper section into 2 zones instead of 1 zone. Right now I have 2 zones, the upper section and then the lower beds, which I know is getting plenty of pressure because there's a couple of cuts or like holes, mini holes, and they're shooting like fountains. And I need to fix those before I plant down there. But because that's happening, I know there's plenty of pressure in those lines. Now, I know there are holes in the lines in the beds up top, in the upper beds, because I accidentally poked a few the other day when I was working with my pitchfork. And the water is just burbling out of there. It should be shooting out of there like a fountain, and it's not. So I'm really hoping, keep your fingers crossed, please, that the problem is somewhere up the line where there's just, a break, and we can fix that. And the pressure will return to normal. If not, I have to add an additional line and then still try to wonder why, what happened that changed the pressure, because I've done nothing different and I'm the only one using that spigot. So yeah, it's just weird. Anyway, kind of not what I needed today. Like I said, I've been going through a rough time and I'm struggling right now mentally. So an additional problem is a little tipping me over the edge a little bit. But I did come up with a plan. Oh, are you kidding me? Okay. Well, that's what I was talking about. So much for getting that work done right now. I'm trying, y'all. I'm really trying. What I was going to say is I did come up with a plan for doing some selling to florists that will make it easy for me and for them. I pay for e-commerce, so I might as well use it. So I can set up a florist part of the shop, of the farm shop, that is password protected because I only want people with a florist who are florists to buy wholesale. Otherwise, I'm losing a lot of money on retail. So I'll give the florists a password. They can go in there, and every week I will upload photos and quantities of what I've got. And then they can just place their orders, and we'll have, maybe I'll do Thursday or Friday, depending on, most of the time they want to get their orders on Fridays because they have a lot of events over the weekend. So, I'll just ask them what works better for them. But that helps because putting together an availability list, the old fashioned way is a paper list that you send out as like a spreadsheet with just the name and the variety and the quantities and then what the cost is. But they don't get to see pictures of it. So if, as a florist, you don't know what Art Deco daffodil is, or some specialty tulip name, it just helps to see the photos. It sells things better. So I think this will be good. Plus, these are florists who were already working through that wholesaler, so they know that kind of system. And, you know, everybody's ordering online these days. It's better than sending out an availability list via email and then having them email me back what they want. That just doesn't seem to make sense. And then I'd have to invoice them and then they'd pay me. It just seems like a lot of back and forth when it could just be one simple transaction. What we're going to be doing when we eventually can do it is direct sowing a whole bunch of beans. I've got green beans, bush beans. I've got a nice climbing bean that I'm looking forward to, and some Jacob's cattle beans for drying. So I've got those packets already laid out. They've been out there all night. And I know where I'm going to put them based on my crop map. So I really want to get those sown, and I need to hook up the irrigation, the hose. The irrigation itself works, but I have a hose that I run out there during the season that I need to hook up so that I can fill all the oyas and hand water the beds if I need to get things going. All right, I'll check back in with you. Maybe we can pot up some begonias this afternoon since I can't seem to get out to the front garden. Well, since I can't work out front, I think what we're going to do is transition 2 containers in the back here on this south-facing wall that gets the most sun on the whole property, as well as the least amount of wind. I think we're going to start to transition these from spring to fall. I mean, from spring to summer. Okay, so it's a mirror image, this one and that one down there. So in the fall, I put these violas, they're so pretty, and some chrysanthemums in here. Now, and also I put in a cabbage, but this guy's bolting. So instead of making a head, it bolted, which is totally fine. I'm gonna pull this out. We've got some muscari in here and a couple of tulips. These were planted years ago and I just never dug out the bulbs. So I think what we're gonna do is pot up just in the back our sun gold tomato. So usually in these pots in the summertime, I pull everything out and then we usually grow a climbing tomato in the back and then either 2 small bush tomatoes in the front and then a whole bunch of marigolds. But I think this year I'm going to do the climbing tomato in the back and the 2 plants I'm going to put on either side of it, I think are going to be peppers this year. Like I said, these 2 spots here get the most sun of the whole property. I have to water these containers often, but I think that'll be really good for peppers because they'll probably get a jump start on the peppers I put out front because they'll have more sun from the get-go. And they're more shielded over here. They don't get, there's hardly ever frost. Even if I have frost 20 feet away, this area hardly ever gets that. Plus, it's in containers, so it's easy to cover if I need to. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is clear some of this stuff out. I'm going to leave the violas and the chrysanthemums for now. At some point, I'll probably pull them out and replace them with marigolds, but marigolds are a lot more cold sensitive, and the violas still look beautiful, so I'm going to leave them for now. But what I am going to pull out is the spring stuff that popped up, the spring bulbs that actually I pulled out of here a long time ago, but a few probably got left behind. Pull those up as well as the cabbage, dig up the soil a little bit, add some fertilizer, and then we'll plant our sun golds. The tomatoes right now, I'm hoping it's just an overwatering thing. All of their stems are super weak in the greenhouse right now. I've had to add support, so I just gave them a super deep drink. Hopefully that will help, but these 2 sun golds are extremely tall, so we're gonna bury them very deep. So they'll look small in here, which is good because it's breezy today. And we'll instantly add the poles that they're gonna need for support now, so we don't interrupt the root system later when they start really needing that support. All right, so let me get my gloves and stuff and we'll start emptying out this container and we'll treat the other container exactly the same. So instead of my battery dying this time, the card is all full. So that's uploading to my computer. So I'll have to close this video out on my phone. So I apologize for that. I went through every tomato. I was wondering, last night when I left the greenhouse, they all looked perfect. Upright stems, they looked amazing. This morning when I came in, it almost looked like an animal had laid down on top of the trays. So I've lost roughly half of them. But the upside is I already put the vegetable boxes together for my customers. So customers already have their tomatoes and their peppers and stuff. And I have plenty here for my personal use as long as nothing else happens to them. So what's left is this. And you can see there's some yellowing here. Now I did give them fish emulsion fertilizer the other day, but that shouldn't have caused any problems. So the ones that are still left still have upright stems, but basically what happened was either the stems were broken like right here or right at the soil. And so, you know, like this one, I'm not sure that's going to make it. We'll see. Yes, I could try to stake each individual one, but it's not worth it to limp these guys along, because if their stem is compromised, then they will not be a strong plant and they won't produce, and that there's no point in that. So I have plenty here for the garden, and if I need some, I can always just go buy some. It's just always, I always enjoy starting them from seed. So, yeah, I don't know what the problem was or is. The ones that are remaining here, their stems are fine and they're upright. It could be that they just got too top heavy and a couple of them went down and they took down all their neighbors. I don't know. But, you know, the leaves were suffering from going overnight with no xylem flow. So it was not worth keeping them. So those all went into the compost. And, you know, now I have more cups to pot up my, my peppers. Which we'll get to tomorrow. It is getting late in the day, so I'm going to wrap this up. So tomorrow we'll go out to the farm. Dylan is going to come help me try to troubleshoot the irrigation. That is crucial. Absolutely have to have irrigation to our plants. And today it hit almost 80 degrees. Tomorrow will be the same, and then we're going back down into the upper 50s, low 60s. So with rain. So, but these 2 days of heat are kind of a shock to those plants, especially the newly transplanted Lizzie that don't yet have big root systems. So I want to make sure that we can keep them safe. Because the way my luck is going this season, I'll lose those too. I don't know, guys. This has been a really tough year so far. Okay, so, and then probably come back here and do some more potting up. And I did order that net. So I also would like to get these beans direct sown in the front garden, and I will capture little Miss Bee. Actually, I went on the bee forums and everybody talks about this. This is the method. Apparently, there's always occasionally that one bee, the solo bee, who just is a guard bee and just has it in her head that you are the enemy. And they'll come from far from the hive to chase you off, dive bombing, you know, bumping you, etc., which is exactly what she's doing. So, and it's funny because in the forums, the author of this article said, you know, as beekeepers, we're fine when we're wearing our suits and we're surrounded by thousands of bees, but it's the lone bee that you're out there trying to mind your own business that's really unnerving. And it's true. That lone bee is very unnerving. So what they recommend is, again, to net them, and you don't have to kill them. This one author said she nets the crazy guard bee and puts her over in the shade, still inside the net, does everything she's supposed to be doing in the garden, and then lets her go free. And generally that's enough. So we'll see. So that'll be here tomorrow, and I'll look forward to trying to be able to work out there without being harassed. But the caveat to that is tomorrow I also really need to go into the beehive, because tomorrow's the last warm day. I need to go into both of the big hives and just see if they need room. I don't have to take the boxes apart. I'm just going to look in the top box. If it looks like they've filled it out and they need more space, I'm going to add a box with all new frames. I'll do that to both. So it's not going to be a lot of disruption, but it'll be enough that they'll probably be after me. So I'm going to try to get those beans transplanted early in the morning while it's still cool. Maybe, I don't know, 6:30, 7 a.m. when the sun is just coming up, because they won't be out then. And hopefully that one guard bee won't be out. All right, thanks for hanging out with me today, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.